Hey everyone, today we're going to explore a very interesting topic, which is the name range, or we could say this is a name box. Today we're going to explore that functionality in Excel. You can see from here, whenever you select a cell, this has been dynamically changed according to your selection. But if you select multiple cells, it will make the anchor point at the left top, which is B3. And if you click through, the one that highlighted in this data range is going to be B4, and now this is B4. So it's never going to show you the actual selection about your data range. Is going to always be an anchor point is the B3 and this one is the C3. You can't change this to something else. For example, if I say this is the multiplier, right? I can change this to a rate. Just name it as a rate. Now this is becoming a rate. This cell is called rate. What you can do with that? Can actually say equal rate. So it's referring to this cell with this blue. If I click enter, it will return that. But then what's the difference if you have a 10, I want to get a rate of that 10, you can equal to zero 0.1 times this one, right? To get a result. Or you can use 10, you can type equals to 10 times the rate. So what's the difference here? You are using reference point, which is understandable by Excel very easily because they're using this latitude and longitude to locate the cell that you are referenced to. But here is using a more contextual language to communicate the information. Here, okay, I'm going to look at a rate. You may say this is say interest rate. Raised. Now this becoming that interest rate. If I type interest rate, now when people looking at this cell, they know what you're doing. You're using interest rate times 10 and to get something out of that. So it's more understandable, more contextual based rather than this cold blood A4. You have to use some comments or note to denote this cell is called interest rate. It's a different methodology. This is one way to give a name of a cell. So this cell is interest rate. But also you can manage that if you're going to the formula bar, go to name, define, name management. You can see two things we have defined. So for the same cell B2, I can rename it as many as I want, call different names. So I'm going to delete this one. Yes, delete this one as well. Now I'm going to use a very manual way to define this. I'm going to delete this part. So I'm going to define a constant name range manually. So you go into form and this one, we just define name interest rate. And then I'm not going to reference anything. I'm going to just equal to 0.0, then click OK. Now, again, if I type that interest rate, this will come up. If I select that, the value is 0.1. This 0.1 is existing in memory of Excel, rather than any canvas or datasheet you have in this workbook. So that's the first method. And moving on to the next method, we're going to use the name box to define a data range and put them into the name range. For example, we have a pivot table like this way. From B2 to B5, I'm thinking about to rename this data range as a different name. You can just go in here, use the name box to name that. Say Jamie. Just be aware of that. There's no spaces allowed. And also some word has been occupied by the system, so you can't use that. It will be, so just be aware of that. The best practice is using underscore to separate the word to replace that space. And also lowercase always preferable because lowercase has better readability compared with the all capital. So that's the name convention I have, Jamie, for this data cell, and then clicking. So you can review that data by just typing Jamie. For example, let me check that. So Jamie, make sure you click enter, otherwise it won't save in the name range. Then you can check in the formula bar, name manager. So we have Jamie and the interest rate, right? Let's just rename this because we're going to use just as a rate. So this has been now we say the Jamie. You can see Jamie has 88, 19, 52, 57 stored in this Jamie object, and it's just referring to this kind of data area. If I change this to 50, and then we recheck the name range, you can see that becoming 50, 50, 57. So it's dynamically capture the content that's been selected in this range. Now, if I type Jamie, it'll come up this one. It will select that. What if I click enter? I'll actually review the data in this cell, and you can see this blue border being displayed from the A6 to the A9, right? So that is indicating there's a spell in this formula cell. If I type something here, it will become an arrow. You can see CPU arrow, right? So if I delete this one, it's just because there's a blocker in between the where direction of the data goes. And based on this, you can actually surround this by any other aggregation you want to do, or say sum. You can have a sum. This sum is exactly total, same as 215, same as this one, which is evaluate something is correct. So instead of this, you can also use this and multiply by the rate. Say I'm gonna do something very fancy to get a rate out of that. Then you can use two name range, and if I click enter, I got this one. Or you say I don't want to do that. I want to say I want to mimic next year. If I set up a budget for Jamie for 10% increase for all the region east, west, south, north for 10% of Jamie's sales, what's it gonna look like? Then you can just use Jamie times rate. And since we're looking for 10% increase, so we're going to bracket that and goes to 1 plus that one. So that will be the outcome of the 10%. You can see for the 10% is we're looking for 235.4 rather than this 214. So you can nest and combine as many name range as you want, but just make it more readable, because I know, okay, that's James cell, that's an increase rate that I'm forcing to James cell. So that's a second method. You just select the data range you want and give a name in the name box. Now we come to the third one. Third one is more, how to say that, is more subtle, because it's pretty smart. So you just need to select the whole data range and then go into formula and define name, create from selection. If I click this one, you will have a new window come up. So if you select this area, you go into the formula, define name, create from selection. So if you select this range and then go into the formula and then define name and say create from selection, you'll have this little window pop up. You'll say create names from value in the top row and also left column. Let's just look at, since this is the pivot format, so the top row will be the table name, region, person, column name, Jamie, Josh, Ian, and also the left column, which is this part, which will have east, west, south, north. If we click OK, and then if we're going back to the name manager to check, so from this part to this part, this Jamie is that we create from the selection. We select Jamie from 2 to B5 and make that name in the name box. This Jamie is actually created from the selection that we just did. And also if we get rid of the rate, so you can see we have Jamie. I think Ian is the one as well. That will do. Yep. So you can see we have Ian, Josh, and also the Northwest, and also the table range is from 88, 61, 40, and 1977. And you can see all the value. The last one is 84. So the East is actually from here, 88, 61, 49. So all the row label and also column label has been used to create this name range. And if we close that, now if we say we want sum every cells from every person from every region, we can just sum, we tap the region because we know that's the table name that we're looking for. Then we can actually close that. You can see that's the total. If we match that, it's actually 761, no problem. And then if we're going to check another one, say for example, if we want some another scene same as the Josh, then you will have the Josh selected and sum with that. You can use this times the 1.1 that we're saying about the rate increase to set up the new budget, and then we close it to that. So that's the new total budget for Josh. And also you can split this by each region if we just remove the sum function, and then that's has the detail of every 10% increase from this year. So that's create via selection. The last part is create by definition. Is you're not making selection in the very beginning. You just go into the formulas, define name, just define name. In this part, you can do a lot of things saying total, you can say define name, total sales. You can say, you can set a scope. Normally the scope will be the workbook, and refer to, we can use this selection and going back. Now, if we say equal to total, that's the total sales, right? If I'm expecting a 10% increase, I can use the rate that we just saved before and go into that. So now you have 10% replicate for everyone. You can have this move to here and copy the exact same title over here. Now you have a clear picture about this is based on the total sell and the 10% increase by that rate. And if you want to manage that rate to a different rate, you can go to the formula bar again, manage that. You can see the rate is over here, the constant. Let's just say we have a good year, very good year. We're expecting, like, say, rocket sales 20%. You close that. It will ask you, do you want to save the change to make the name reference? Yes. Now my change has been changed. And if you want to check that, you can go into sum, this one. And what about the sum of this value? And if I use equal to this one minus the previous year and divided by previous year is exactly 20% of the increase from last year to this year budget. So that's the use of the name range. Name range can be very useful when you have a long template to design, and you should put all the reference point one page as a reference page. So you can say rate 1, rate 2, rate 3. They manage on the sheet. It's better than manage over here through the constant management, because this way is making the template looking good, but it's hard to manage. So I normally have a reference, say reference tab. I have different rate list over here. So that way I can easily manage them and just give each of them a name. You can just use formula, define, create from selections. In that way, you just select the left column. So this is a different rate name. This will be the different rate amount. In that way, you're managing them very vividly. And for the people who is in charge of that later on will have much clear picture about what is going on. And this way, you segregate your data input from your data output. So we'll have much clear picture. And that's it. See you guys in the next one.